Happy Earth Day, GarrForce.
All right, here we go. Get ready to have a good time. This is exciting, isn't it?
All right, we're on.
Hello, testing.
Welcome aboard the Dreamliner.
It's the only way to fly.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Podcaster. Podcaster.
Garry.
Here's a young speaker who is really in demand.
Don't let that go to your head, Garry.
But wait, there's more.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's Garry Meier.
It's the Friday, April 22nd, 2022 edition of the Garry Meier Show Cocktail Hour Live.
Cocktails. Woo! Drinks.
Streaming live at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 4 Mountain, 3 Pacific, and so forth. Todd Pickering finally had a moment this week to send us a greeting.
Hey, Garry, greetings from Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska, the state capital.
And since we like to educate on this show, Todd also shared this.
Fun fact, the Nebraska Cornhuskers used to be the Bug Eaters. It's true. I have a shirt.
Of course, no matter where you are, it's time for a digital mimosa. Remember that our preferred streaming platform is YouTube. Subscribe to the GarrForce Live YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when we're live. Be sure to like and share the show on all of your favorite social media channels. And during the live show, comments on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch may get shown on the screen, and Garry may talk about them. Now, fasten your seatbelts. It's time to go wheels up on the GarrForce Live.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Alan, for that wonderful introduction. And hey, good to see Todd Pickering. Haven't seen him in a while. I don't know why he was in Lincoln, Nebraska, but we welcome him wherever he is. And yes, it is Earth Day. Alan showed, I think that's video from Alan's walk. Alan walks around his neighborhood in Orlando every day, and there's all kinds of wildlife, and he'll run some vid and share it with us once in a while. And yeah, Earth Day. So if you see a mountain of plastic somewhere, well, if you can pick it up, put it in a trash can, great. I think we're doomed. That's why we drink on Fridays. But this is it. This is the only planet we have, as much as we think we're going to another planet at some point. Once we've destroyed this one, that's an Alan shot right there. Yeah, Alan goes for a walk, and then this happens. Alan, what kind of bird is that?
I believe that one's an ibis.
An ibis.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad there was not a plastic ring around its neck or something.
No, in fact, the worst predicament I've ever seen a bird in my neighborhood, thankfully, was sort of its own doing. It was seaweed. The bird had gotten itself entangled in seaweed.
Okay.
Now, as I was saying to you before the show, this osprey, on the other hand, it was threatening all those cute little ducklings.
Yeah,
that's a pretty terrifying sight.
Yeah, you got the mama duck and then the little ducklings, and then this, say, there, and then one of those. Oh, I hate to say it, but I think one or two of those little ducklings was.
Now, unfortunately, last year, as I was following the group in my community pond, I read up on it and saw that their survival rate is about 25-30%. It's pretty low.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that's the Earth.
Indeed.
That's all acceptable because that's how that species lives. They feed off each other, and there's nothing we can do about that. But we can corral some of this plastic. Let us kick the tires and burn those tires. And boy, a tire fire, that's good for the environment, huh? We will have our usual things in the Friday show. Ryan will be talking about Wisconsin and some other stories as a sidebar that he saw and I thought were interesting, not necessarily part of Wisconsin lore. And about 10 years ago, I believe, Ryan jumped out of an airplane with a parachute, and he'll talk about that. And Leslie's going to pop on to officially start the cocktail show because this is the process. We have the fires, we got the tires, and we have the wine condom. Hi, Leslie.
Hey, I stuck a pitchfork in the compost pile yesterday, so I did my part. Lots of worms. So
Good. Worms
moving
are
in the
good.
right direction. Got me a flat top. I'm really kind of loving this flat top Chardonnay, and
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of loving what's happening up
It
here
does a
right now
nice
too.
job on that condom. And you're going to roll that off and start the show. Wow.
Oh, we
Somebody's
got
eye would
hype.
have been taken out. One of those condoms still in the wrapper will be given away at the end of the program. There it is. And last
There you
week
go.
we teased what the other prize would be from the fun bag, and that is an attachment to your faucet that turns it into a nightclub.
You got it.
And Alan, if you could run some vid on that to show what people
Sure.
will be
And
winning.
it still has some audio, so if you want to talk, make sure you unmute when it runs.
Look at that. You just screw that onto your faucet, right? You don't need a plumber. And it does that little show for you.
You got it. It's
And
simple
you
as
have
can
one
be.
on your faucet?
Yep. I may have to take it off for a while. It gets to be a lot, especially at night when you're just trying to do that last brushing my teeth in the dark, except now it's like kind of
okay.
hurting my
Well,
eyes.
that's the
it's fun.
companion piece to the condom. Let me acknowledge some people who have checked in. Keely-Ann always, I don't know if she was first because I saw Barbara from Arizona had checked in. Barbara Lynn had checked in, but then Keely was right there with my schnauzer is sneezing. I guess it's allergy season.
Oh my.
The sneezing schnauzer. We have the streaming schnauzer. The schnauzer can do all kinds of things. And then David R., be careful. Don't let the schnauzer get too wet. It's raining outside. A lot of people checking in from the Midwest, and apparently, yes, a lot of rain going around the country and making people miserable. And that's why we have the cocktail show, to take some of that misery away on a Friday. I'm not as dumb as I look. I need something to look forward to. And this really goes back to my childhood. On Friday, when I was in grammar school, my mother would come and pick me and my brothers and sisters up, and we'd go into town and one of our favorite department stores, and we just hang out there all evening. And that was a ritual every Friday. And I always thought, boy, I like rituals like that. I want to have something every Friday, and that's what this is. And I have a whole, yes, I have
Did
a
Mom
whole
get you
a
your
mimosa.
first Manhattan or a little mimosa? Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because you're young. You start with the
13.
mimosas.
And I was the oldest, and you can imagine. So if I'm the oldest, and then everybody's behind me as far as age, and we're all drinking at the department store. But what they did have, and you may have experienced this, in the shoe department, they had this thing where you could x-ray your feet for whatever reason, and you would do it yourself. You'd stick your feet in this slot, and it would x-ray it. And we didn't care about radiation. And we went to the dentist and got x-rays, and we didn't have that big lead bib that they have now. How much radiation, for those of us of a certain generation, have we absorbed? And we're still here.
Well, not to mention the fact that we were very active children, so there were fractures and breaks and x-rays involved in all of those too. So there was quite a cumulative effect
Yes.
going
And
on.
somehow we made it through. Okay. Let me look at the comment section and say hello to the following. Keely-Ann, I did. Barbara. David, and he's from Oak Lawn, Illinois. We're streaming that schnauzer on all fours. And then we have a David from Venice, Florida. Mary Ann's complaining about the weather. And I'm sorry, it's Deb. My writing is bad, as you can imagine, after a step or two of the Manhattan. It's Deb in Des Plaines. And Des Plaines is right adjacent to O'Hare International Airport. And that's the name of the town. Des Plaines, the planes go over the area there. They call it Des Plaines. There's the
It's one of
planes.
those words where we can tell who's a local and who's an out of towner, especially newscasters that they bring in. And that's one of those where it's like, you called it the plane. And
The
it's
planes, because the planes go over the highway by Des Plaines. All right, enough of that. Johnny from Michigan. Johnny's been sending me a picture of all the meals he has every day. I just went to Wendy's, and it all looks good. And here he is. Have a great weekend. GarrForce from Johnny. Johnny from Michigan.
He does
And
a lot of his
Amy-
own cooking too.
Yes, he does. He's a one-man entertainment center. Amy G. Mike from Lake Barrington, Illinois. Doug from 847. Stephen from Palos Heights, Holly, Michael. Michael mentioned something, and some other people have mentioned this to me. Bob Odenkirk, you know who that is from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul, yeah.
He's got a book out, and apparently I'm in it.
You are?
And Michael was saying that they were listening to Bob do it on tape, and I was mentioned, and several other people alerted me to that. Wow. Bob from the Chicago area.
Somebody out there needs to tell Bob that we want him on the show.
Yes,
we would love to have Bob Odenkirk on the show.
Yes, as part of our Yappetizers and Nonsense kind of show that we do here. All right.
Isn't
now,
Better Call Saul wrapping up here? So
yes,
he's
they're in
going
the
to have
final
some free
season.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he had a health scare there. I think he had a heart attack on set not too long ago, and he recovered from that. Cindy checking in, and she's familiar with Des Plaines because I worked at a radio station in Des Plaines, and that's where she's from. And the planes go, oh, for God's sake, stop it, Gary.
You got it upside down again. Sorry.
And it is screen door season.
And of course, it's right when I took the this side up graphic out of the StreamYard.
What does that mean?
I had a sign to tell you were holding it upside down. I showed it to you a few weeks ago.
Okay. Jadine, she was the winner last week. She got the condom and a GarrForce t-shirt. I hope she got her stuff. And congrats, Jadine. And Annie, JR, David. What is he saying here? I figured out what to do in the rain. Let's just say I'm on my third Manhattan. Wow.
Oh, my.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Okay. And Dottie and Martin, British Columbia, checking in as he does every week. Glad to see that. All right. Well, as you saw in the opening, Leslie and everybody else, my guest will be and is Shari Dunn. Hello, Shari.
Hey, how are you today? How is everyone?
Good, good. Shari is a thinker, an agent of change, a game show winner, and a Borat whistleblower. And boy, if you can put that on your resume, you got something going there. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Her main event is she has a company called It Bomb. I'm the boss of me, and I could explain what it is, but why don't you tell us, Shari, what that all does?
All right. Yeah, it's ITBOM, and it stands for I'm the boss of me, because ever since I was little, my mother said I was the boss of me. So I'm like, all right, that's what we're calling it. And it is copyrighted, so don't worry about that. I do strategy. I do diversity, equity, inclusion. I work with corporations, nonprofits, for-profits, trying to help them figure out how to have a more equitable and diverse workforce. I mean, we already have a diverse workforce, but what does it mean for us to work together? I mean, one thing we don't think about is our workforce right now is more gender, age, and racially diverse than any time in U.S. history. So what does it mean to have different folks in that space? And how do we give people the opportunity to contribute to the best that they can and being who they are? So, I have a really interesting job. I do interesting things. I just got a call from a science group about potentially doing some work under a grant around genetics. It's like so fascinating. I feel really lucky.
And diversity has been really sounding louder and louder over the last few years for a number of reasons. But it's interesting that it's taken this long to get to a place where you're saying, finally, we're getting a nice mix of people in the workforce, where for a long time it was not that. And Shari and I talked earlier this week about affirmative action. And I looked up affirmative action, and it really started in the late 1800s. And then over the years has gone through all kinds of massaging. And the real beneficiary of affirmative action in modern times was the white female. And I didn't think of it like that. I remember when it first came out, you heard this cry, well, this is going to put a lot of unqualified people in jobs that they shouldn't have. Mm-hmm. But the people that really benefited initially were white women who are now coming into the workforce as more than receptionists and secretaries. And then they got included in the big picture of all kinds of jobs.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, outstripping any other group, affirmative action benefited white women, which is not a negative thing. I mean, what it shows is the power of what I call intentionality. When people have been intentionally excluded, which women were, which people of color have been, when people are intentionally excluded, you don't just open the door and say, oh, now you're included. You have to use intentional efforts, intentional work to change attitudes and policies. And that change worked. I think 53% of the US workforce is female. A majority percentage of college graduates, law school graduates are female. So it took intentional effort. And I like to shift our thinking toward intentionality, because there are intentional things done to prevent something, and it takes intentional effort to change that. And, it's been tremendous. And I don't think a lot of people place it in its proper historical context. And also, I often say we're lost on the timeline. If we think issues that have caused us problems in this country are over after slavery, or over after suffrage, or over after civil rights, we're off on the timeline. We're not even a full generation into women fully being in the workforce, a full, we'll say a lifetime, right? We're like 54 or so years in. That's a really short period of time in the history of things. And when you look at it like that, there's been tremendous advancement.
And here's what you found, right? That these companies, when they get a diverse workforce, it benefits them tremendously.
Absolutely. People don't think about that. But, having a diverse workforce, research has shown across gender, across age, we actually have one of the biggest spreads of age in the workforce right now, from baby boomers to Gen Y. And the reason a diverse workforce works is because it requests that people pay attention, and it lights up parts of your brain where you are thinking, you are being more intentional, you are focusing, because you are talking to people across different generations, across different times. You're having conversations across fairly large spans. So you have to pay attention. This causes people to pay more attention to their work, to the project they're working on. Also, you get people who bring different voices and different vantage points. And so that makes a team stronger, is what they found, not weaker.
And this alarm bell that has been rung so many times, especially in the last, 10, 20 years, and certainly in the last election cycle, about immigrants. And they're taking jobs away from Americans. And that is a problem. And where have you found all that to be sorted out, and what do you see?
It's really one of these interesting things, because you have to really dig down to what industry and what you're talking about. So if we look at professional jobs, I was just at a thing in Oregon the other day for workforce in the state. And we had a speaker from MIT, which is really smarty pants people apparently. And he said that if you went all over the world to find all the IT professionals that you could, and you brought them here, we would still be short hundreds of thousands of IT professionals. So we have work to do about how we train and develop the people here, but there's still plenty of work. Now, if you look at things like immigrants, people who come and work in our meat factories, chicken, out in the fields, etc., that is work that Americans have passed through doing. We had enslavement in the United States, free labor. Then we had low wage labor with sharecropping. And then we had, people in poverty who took low wage jobs. And as the economy got better, those people transitioned out of those jobs. But the market still requires low wage, low overhead, low cost people, and sought out people from other countries to do this work. And so they get here because industry sought them out, and also because we're not willing to pay the true cost of an apple, and we're not willing to pay the true cost of fruit, and we're not willing to pay the true cost of a chicken. And so, for many Americans to take those jobs, they would want to be paid wages that are appropriate. And one could argue that anybody doing that work should be paid, fair wages. But the truth of the matter is the system has a requirement that it meets. And it's not, about those people. It's about what we're willing to tolerate for costs and what the system does to accommodate us.
So affirmative action, getting back to that for just a second, it's not letting people in that are not qualified. That's a misnomer for the most part.
That's a real unfortunate phraseology, and we have to ask ourselves, why do we think that? And there's a historical vision about who's qualified. These issues about who's qualified existed well before affirmative action was a policy. In 80s, after slavery, when Black folks were trying to get jobs, they were unqualified. They had nothing to do with affirmative action, just by the nature of being Black. When women were trying to get certain jobs, they were seen as unqualified for those jobs because they were women. Nothing to do with affirmative action. So this idea about who's qualified and who's not qualified is more tied to stereotyping, historical notions about who is qualified rather than any kind of policy. What affirmative action seeks to do, and again, I really like to switch that to intentionality, is it is saying we have intentionally set up a system that prevented certain people from accessing opportunity, and we have to intentionally make space for these people or else they won't get in. Because it's just like saying, I'm going to invite you to run this race. It's 100 laps and I've been running for 70 laps. So you start now and you're totally equal. You're going to catch up. That's not how it works,
Exactly. And I look at cities like Detroit, and they had this one industry, and then that industry goes south, and a lot of people depended on it. And now you have high unemployment, and now the city decays and everything that follows. And I always think when people look at that, some people say, well, they don't want to work, that they could find a job, but it's not that simple. And I don't see a lot of people. There are certain people that won't want to work ever for whatever reason. But for the most part, people want to work and make a living and support their family or have a decent roof over their head. I don't understand why that should be denied. I just think everybody benefits. These cities stay strong, and that's a whole rhythm that's good.
Yeah, Detroit, just an interesting story just came out about how at one point they levied high property taxes illegally into certain neighborhoods, many of them communities of color. And it was a mistake, or it was done unintentionally, but people lost their homes through losing and through eviction and mortgage and, not being able to keep up with the payments. And it turned out that those levies were illegal and incorrect. And so that has devastated, core communities there. So what intentional efforts will be done to correct that, right? That's the question.
I have this weird, and I guess it's almost a fantasy at this point, where I wanted to go into Garry, Indiana, and help that city get back on its feet. And all they had to do is change the name to Garry with 2 R's, Indiana. And that would be my payment. But I had all these crazy ass ideas maybe, but I thought I for some reason, when I'm living next to areas that are blighted, I'm feeling it. And I still feel like I should help somehow in my head. Yeah. And I'll throw ideas out there. Some of them, yes, I wanted to see pyramids in Garry, Indiana, because the flight pattern to Midway Airport goes over Garry. And if people saw the pyramids, okay, now you're really going, why am I on this show? Okay, this is Shari Dunn now. Let's go back to Shari Dunn before you started all this and get a little bit of your history. First of all, I met Shari because she went to law school with Alan, the producer of this program. That's how Shari's on the program. And that's how I know Shari, and she knows Alan. And then Alan was telling me your history before we first met, and you were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You auditioned for the show. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I have kind of a life like, what's that movie with Robin Williams, Life According to Garp, where he just kind of wanders through. Yeah, it just kind of wanders through important events. So my life has been a little bit like that. So I used to be a practicing attorney. I did divorce and custody for victims of domestic violence. I worked in Washington, D.C. I did federal funding and policy work. Worked in New York, was a funder of a foundation, was a news anchor for a decade, did television news. So I've been kind of just wandering around the world. And when I lived in New York, I went and auditioned with a friend of mine, David Monderer, who also went to school with Alan and I, to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, daytime edition with Meredith Vieira. And the story I love to tell is, you take this little test, which is very simple. And I was interviewed by a producer who did not seem to like me and was not very nice to me. So I went home and I was like, oh, I'm not going to get on the show. And then I got a call later that day from the producer who was sitting next to us. And she did not like how the woman spoke to me. And she was like, I think you'd be great for the show. You can be on Friday. And I was like, whoa, because they had said, like, even if you would be on, it could be like weeks or whatever. So I went and auditioned and I was on by the end of the week. So that is a crazy story. And I was a winner.
How much?
$1 million.
How much did you win?
$125,000.
And how does that work? After the show, you go backstage and they go, okay, here's what you won. We'll take the taxes out now, and here's the remainder. How does that process work?
No. You have to wait a little while and you get a check, and they don't take taxes out. It's up to you. So yeah, you get this whole check. And what really bothers me to this day is, you get a chance to go up a level every time. And the next level was 250,000, I believe. I think it was 250. And the question was about a musical. And I had actually kind of done a cursory, not study, but looked at things. And, they have all this music going and lights flashing and people are yelling. And I knew the answer, but I was like, I should just take the 125,000. Like, that's a lot of money. And when she said what the answer was, it was Oklahoma. To this day, I can't stand to see the musical Oklahoma.
And did you know the answer? I know you
yes.
said you did know the answer, but if you had it wrong, you would have won how much? You would have gone back down to 32,000 or something?
Yeah, or something like that, right? And it was just one of these situations where I was like, wow, 125 in the bank. What if I'm wrong? And then, but on the way home on the subway, I was like, Oklahoma.
Yeah. Well, hey, 125,000. Can I ask you how much you got after taxes of that?
I really don't remember, because you got to put it into your income. And it wasn't a lot. It wasn't like, once you put it into your income and that ups your income significantly, you're probably talking about like 45% or more. But
still, you're interviewing one day, and then a few days later, you've got 125,000 you didn't have.
Yeah.
And that was nuts. That was after you thought you weren't going to be on the show. So it all worked out.
Right. That's right.
You were on with Oprah too. For what reason?
Yeah. There's another like world according to Garb situation. So when I lived in New York, so the moral of the story, people is move to New York, random things happen to you. So when I lived in New York, and this was well before, Tinder and Bumble, there was this woman who had a dating coffee house on the Upper West Side, which is a great idea. She had these books, and you open it up and there were no pictures, people weren't as vain, and people had written about themselves. And so if you were interested in somebody, she would make the connection and you would meet at the coffee house. So that's the way it was done. But she wanted someone to come and pretend to do a date because her coffee house was going to be featured on Oprah. So I was like, sure, that sounds like fun. So I went to be filmed pretending to look in the book and, go on the stage. And at the end of the night, I got a call from the producer of the Oprah show. And he said, hey, we're going to change the show. We want to make it all about you trying different dating services and then fly you to Chicago to talk to Gail and Oprah about it. And I'm like, what?
Again? I'm sitting at a coffee shop and I'm on TV.
And the next thing you know, I'm being flown to Chicago to be a guest. I spent a half an hour. I'm a guest of the Oprah show officially. So yeah, it was another crazy random walking through the background of history situation.
And before all that, you were a news anchor for 10 years, 10, 11 years?
After all that. So after all that.
Okay.
So the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire money and being on Oprah got me an agent, and that got me the money to move to California and freelance and do work. And that got me into the local news, which it was a detour.
Okay. And I've got to get to this moment where you're an anchor in Tyler, Texas.
Yeah.
And Sacha Baron Cohen comes to the station under the guise that it wasn't a guise, he was doing a movie, but he sold it in a way, and you sniffed this out right away. Let us hear this story.
Yeah, so this is a really crazy story. So I was a news anchor at a station in Tyler, Texas, which is in East Texas, home of True Detective, for any of you who've seen that show. And this production company came to the station, and they were going to shoot for some kind of documentary or something. And they wanted everybody to sign a non-disclosure. And I asked our news director about it. I said, this is a strange document. Because remember, I had been a lawyer before going into news. And I was like, something is missing. I'm not sure what this is. I think we should know more about this before we sign off on this. And so I didn't sign off on it. And I don't think other people in the newsroom did. But the weatherman, the sports guy, and the news director did. And so this is before Sacha Baron Cohen was, everybody knew who he was. I mean, this is over a decade ago. And so he comes in and interviews them. And when he's leaving, some of the people in the news area who are younger people see him and they're like, oh my God, I think that's that guy from those movies. But the people he interviewed didn't know, right? And so they ended up signing and agreeing to be in this mockumentary, to be mocked. And their part did not end up much in the movie. They just made fun of Tyler, a story about exploding cows or something, which did happen. Although there was a lot of hard news there. That actually was a very interesting place. A lot of murder and strange. It's very, very true detective. Very strange. But anyway, yeah, it was crazy. And the news director was, the kind of person who I think thought they knew everything and didn't want to listen. And I'm like, yeah, oh well.
Yeah, good luck.
I raised an alarm.
It wasn't where the weatherman ended up holding a bag of dog crap and having Borat ask him to do something weird with it.
I don't think so, but you know what? I never ended up seeing that piece of it. I know they cut a lot of that out, so maybe they eventually figured out what was going on.
Oh God, I would have loved to have seen those guys that signed up and did get on camera and then came in after they realized what happened. Very nice. Oh God, I'm screwed. You won't believe what I did. I can't even explain. Okay, well, there you have it. And being a lawyer, you saw something weird there.
Yes, I was like, this is weird.
All right. Well, that is quite a life you've lived already, Shari, and it's a pleasure to talk to you and learn about all this stuff.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to be here. And right as we start this podcast, someone is apparently working on my rooftop.
I hope you hired them. Otherwise, you're going to find something.
Well, I'm in a condo, so somebody else must have something going on. But unbeknownst to me, it sounds like they're coming through the roof. So,
all right. Thank you, Shari, the CEO of ItBomb. I'm the boss of me right here. All right. Thanks, Shari.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Borat, as I call him. I'm like Larry King now. Lady Gaga.
Gaga.
Yeah. Borat.
This will be the day Shari starts the story about. There was this time when a family of cloggers moved in above me, and I was living in a condo.
Right. Yeah. The clog dancers, like that commercial. But I could just see the weatherman and that other sports guy. Oh my, we're going to be in a movie. Ooh. And then Borat craps in a toilet and points down. What do I do? What should I do with that?
It was The Fugitive that was filming in Chicago when I was working in radio there. And good golly, anybody who had ever held a microphone wanted to be in that movie because they always had like a scrum of photographers for different scenes.
Yeah, that end scene has like everybody from Channel 2, I remember, like Jay Levine and Harry Drummond and
all the local schmokel news people.
And lucky for them, it was just a movie with Harrison Ford and Tommy
Lee Jones.
Tommy Lee Jones, yeah. And Leslie was in Ferris Bueller. She's on the float with Vlasta doing Twist and Shout, or what? I don't know what you did with that.
There was a thing. I was working with a guy whose name rhymes with Fuzz Billman, who told people that I was in a movie that had filmed here in Chicago because that was the thing. Everybody always wanted to be in these movies. And I swear there were lots of people who were like, I saw you in Mercury Rising with I forget who was in it, but it's like, yeah, I saw you in that scene, and it's like, no, I really never was in the movie at all.
I did actually audition with a former partner for Groundhog Day. If you've seen the movie, there's an ongoing radio on the nightstand next to Bill Murray, and it's playing
Groundhog Day. Yeah.
Right, this morning show. Good morning, I got you, babe. Right? Isn't that the song that's always playing? And we go to the audition, and there were 50 other guys sitting there. I don't even know if we stayed. It was, come on. You know? Or we did, and we didn't get it, or I don't know. But I wanted to be, and still do maybe, I want to be in a movie that becomes a classic, even if I'm just an extra standing on the street and it goes by. I was in the classic movie. I have that in my head. So when they redid Miracle on 34th Street, they did it in Chicago. Went to be in a scene with that, and that was a waste of time too.
Well, you probably should have been in the movie with Bill Murray back then, because I got a story about a movie that he's doing right now, and things aren't going so well.
Yeah, they shut down the whole movie because of some accusations.
Yes.
Well, Harold Ramis told me, speaking of Groundhog Day, he said, after we did Groundhog Day together, I'll never work with him again. I guess it was kind of impossible. Not because of any grab ass or whatever this is that you're going to talk about. It's just that I guess he's kind of difficult.
Well, and with that, I guess at some point, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis were so contentious that they had to hire a go-between. And at one point, Bill Murray hired a woman who was deaf. And that's how much he wanted to deal with Harold Ramis, is that he wanted no communication whatsoever.
I saw Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd on promoting the most recent Ghostbusters that they did, right? I believe it was on the Seth Meyers show, and Dan was paying homage to Harold and talking about how much they loved. And then Bill goes, "All right, he's dead. Let's go already." And I'm like, "Holy shit!"
Oh my god!
Jeez.
And spoiler alert: this last Ghostbusters really is just a sweet homage to Harold Ramis, and I got all misty. Yeah,
because Harold was the comedy genius behind all these movies, Caddyshack and Groundhog Day, and all those Stripes. And he was such a nice guy too. That made it even better when I met him, and he was so nice, and I had him on several times, and it was so sad that he died at a relatively young age.
Well, he was one of those guys who would show up for interviews with you, and he would have taken the L to get there. He did not show up with a giant entourage or any kind of handlers. It was just Harold showing up.
Yeah, and unlike Gilbert Gottfried, he say things more than yes or no when I asked him a question.
You still can't shake. You should take a sip of your Manhattan, I think, maybe.
Here's the deal. What I'm doing, and we don't do serious on the cocktail show that often, but I knew this was going to be kind of serious. So look I still have a long way to go, and I got to catch up.
And there's a chat in the comments that you didn't pop the condom, but I remember you popping the condom.
Oh yeah, she did. Yeah. I said it almost would have
went across the room, taken out. Yeah, exactly.
Taking somebody's eye.
Actually, I can't find it even. It's somewhere on the floor. Oh well.
Oh, that's
cat toy.
The cat. Yeah, the cat will find it. That's the bit. So Ryan is on the show and mentioned that he had skydived a number of years ago, because we did that story about the woman who recently jumped out of the plane and her leg got tangled in the chute, and she slammed into the ground, and she lived, and she broke all kinds of stuff. And on her hospital bed, she's saying, "As soon as I heal, I want to skydive again." And I'm thinking, is that the thing to say to all your family and friends who are by your bedside and just hoping you survive? And probably through it. As soon as I get out of this, I'm going to skydive again. And then you want to just pull the plug, right?
Why don't you take up like roller skating or something for a while?
Yes.
There are all sorts of hobbies.
Well, I have a policy. I don't want to jump out of a plane when it's working. And then Ryan pops in with, I did that a number of years ago. Ryan, explain yourself.
That was 25 years ago. I was 20 years old. I had a friend that was skydiving by, had got to the point where he could do it by himself. So we went down to Skydive Chicago, and it was 45 minutes worth. There's the video. That was my $200 video. I
don't know what you're doing there.
Practicing. So
I don't know what that is. That's some kind of Borat piece.
Well, you have to look at the altimeter. So there you go. I was scared to death. I was scared to death of heights, and look at my face there.
Okay.
Look how cute you are.
Is it wrong for you to be strapped on a man at 20,000 feet?
Yeah. So there we're going. Once the chute deploys, he had made the straps too tight on the parachute. So we're free falling, and he's unloosening the straps and says, Ryan, I can't unloosen them anymore, or you're going to fall. So,
No,
so here's the pain point right here. As soon as the
that...
chute opens,
the pain point. What happens?
That's where the strap's tight. It got tight around my top and my legs. So he's unloosening them as we're free falling there because it's too tight. Look at me. I'm like, what the heck?
Okay, and you did this because, I mean,
your friend did it. Fear of heights, right?
You have a fear of heights, and you thought this would break it?
Yeah.
And did it?
It did. It did. I'm not as crazy about, fear of heights anymore. I don't think I'd do it again, but, I was 20.
So you never did it after that, and you won't do it again?
No, I probably won't. And speaking of broken, so we're coming there, and we're kind of all milling around, and there's a guy with his leg up in this like brace in the wheelchair. Clearly it's broken. And we thought, I wonder what that is. Oh, he was there last week and came down and missed the landing area and hit a moving car. So, and he was there kind of hanging out with his buddies. So
yeah, that Goofy has the right expression. Why are you doing this?
Yeah, so it was kind of fun. And when I heard that, I went back and dug out it was a VHS that I had converted to DVD, and then I had to do some conversion to get Alan to be able to, edit it down to a quick view. So
okay, you have a man strapped to your back, and it's real tight.
It is really tight.
And you're thinking, wow, okay. And there's another person obviously taking video alongside of you. That looked a little too close. I pictured entangled chutes and things.
Yeah, it was all close, and he has to go get down quicker than we do, so he can, view the landing or, film that. So it was kind of, and that was it was probably a $500 adventure. It was $300. And then, I had to get the video. And
they
back
paid
then
you
it was
$500?
Yeah.
That's the only way I'm going to do this.
How much for the vid?
Like $200.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, it was 1998. You didn't have the cell phones. You couldn't have, had someone on the ground with the cell phone getting, that. So you paid what you could do to get proof.
I'm just curious, Alan, can you run the first part of that vid again? I don't know what Ryan's doing here.
We're practicing what we're doing. You have to do in the air. You have to look at your altimeter.
Oh, you handsome young man.
Ooh, Papa. Oh, Papa. Oh, Papa.
Yeah, I definitely picked the right sections of that 10-minute video.
Yeah.
Has your wife seen this? And if she has, her comments?
She just said, yeah, you were young and dumb. I mean, she didn't really. Hank liked it. Hank liked to see Dad jump out of the plane. So, yeah. And now that we, Alan edited down, I showed him, and he's, you can kind of. Otherwise, it's like a 12-minute video. So
yeah, we just wanted to get the meat of it, and I think
we just wanted to get the meat. The guy strapped on my back, and
I think that's the meat shot right there.
Right there.
Right there. There it is. Oh, Papa.
There you go.
Yeah, put your head up. What do you have a bathing
like a
cap
dunce cap or something on? Yeah.
That'll contain your brains when you hit the ground. Wow.
So, yeah, pretty good that video is still kind of, in good shape. It's an old video, but you see we had a crash landing there a little bit. So
yeah.
Celebrating Earth Day by slamming into it. That's very
Yeah, you look like you're thinking, why did I do that? Right?
Yeah, it was crazy, but you got to do it once.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. No, not at all. Okay, you have a Wisconsin report, and Alan has also pulled some other stories that I wanted to talk about, Leslie, because they're interesting outside of the Wisconsin genre, and we're going to talk about those after we run this report. All right. It's Wisconsin, yeah, hey.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan, and I have a few updates this week from Wisconsin. When I heard this story, it reminded me of what guys do in November called Movember, where they grow out their mustaches for the whole month of November to see if they can grow a mustache or what silly mustaches they can grow. Well, this is No Mow May, where you're encouraged to keep the lawnmower put away for the month of May and let your grass grow to help encourage bees and other pollinating insects to be able to thrive before you start mowing. There's many municipalities in Wisconsin that are supporting this and letting homeowners let their lawn go long and kind of get unsightly to protect the bees and other insects. So if you don't feel like mowing in May, you can say, hey, I'm participating in No Mow May, and nobody will know any different. Unfortunately, the Corcoran family is out of town this weekend. Otherwise, we would be at the Lego Brick World at State Fair Park in West Dallas. It's kind of like a swap meet for people into Lego bricks. It's 3,200 square feet of Legos, exhibits, people selling them. So we're missing out on this year, but we've marked the calendar for next year. Maybe we could take the Titanic and display it, or if we ever get the Home Alone house put together, we can do that too. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk next week.
I like how you said Lego bricks and then you went Legos. Oh, well, you got 50% credit.
Right. We didn't tell Hank about that. Otherwise, he would have been disappointed. We just popped up the other day online and we thought, boy, how did we miss this one?
And as everybody probably knows who's listened for any length of time, I love magnet fishing, coin diving, and kite surfing. And you have your son out there fishing in this part of Illinois, but not the magnet fishing yet.
No, not the magnet fishing, but we did have a individual come up to us and said, hey, man, I'm trying to look for some good spots to go magnet fishing. Where do you recommend?
Yes, I think the magnet fishing is really catching on. Now, earlier I mentioned my day of how I go through Friday and get ready for the show, and it involves during the spring, summer, the power washing, the stump grinding, or the weed whacking. I got some weed whacking in today, and in your report there, you're talking about No Mow May. If it rains a lot and you let it go for a month,
you could have a foot of grass.
Yes, I know it helps the bees and all that, and that's great. But if you have a tall grass to cut, that mower is going to really get clogged up, and you're going to have a pain
mess.
Right?
And
Just get a push mower.
Yeah, sure.
And it'll encourage people not to mow and, leave more junk around. So I get why they're doing it, but I think it's just
I do too. But again, if it goes real high, you try to start mowing that and
it'll be a mess.
Yeah. Stalling out. It's a pain in the ass. Before you get into the side stories, let's pay homage, Alan, to the fine sponsors of the GarrForce. Bettenhausen Automotive is one of them.
A legend has returned. See the all-new 2022 Wagoneer at Bettenhausen in Tinley Park. The Wagoneer has the spirit for adventure, equipped with everything you would need no matter where your trails lead. And Bettenhausen has this most premium SUV ever built in stock, with many to choose from. Come in and see what the all-new Wagoneer offers you at Bettenhausen. Your best Wagoneer buying experience starts now at BettenhausenCDJR.com.
See the Ukrainian tie-in there?
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Yes. Okay. Are you refinancing, Leslie? Are you looking for a mortgage? You're not, but
Not
you know
right now,
people
but
who
if
are.
I was, yeah.
This is the
right
guy,
now.
David Hochberg. They know all about this, the team that he's assembled. They know about VA loans, reverse mortgage, your credit score, all that stuff. And they do a free consultation to find out where you're at and all the things you need. And then hopefully you'll do business with David and his team. And there are the numbers to call for all that, right? How long have we known David? 20 years at least?
He was the first time I met David was when he was your Dickie Daddy. And that has to be at least 15 years ago.
That reminds me of Ryan and when he sky jumped. And he had no, that's different. Yes, he supplied the funds for the Dickies. That was the initial marketing thing that David did on his own. That's what he does. I wanted to put out a Dickie with the GarrForce or whatever my logo was at the time. And he said, I'll pay for him because the station wouldn't. So we had the GarrForce, whatever that version was, Dickie. And you still have, I have a Dickie. You have a Dickie?
Yeah. I can lay my hands on it like that because it's very important to me.
If I asked you to grab that Dickie right now.
Do you want me to grab the Dickie?
I think that's a drinking game, isn't it? for those of you who have not seen the Dickie, we're going to model. I think Leslie can model the Dickie as we speak. All right. And then Ryan's going to share some of the other stories that he pulled that are not Wisconsin based, but I thought were rather interesting. Look at that. I like when there's a Dickie close by. Look at that. Look how handsome that Dickie is.
I should cover up parts of it, but there it is.
Yeah, well, that radio station is void, null and void. And Null and Void, wasn't that the morning show?
Yeah.
When we worked there? The morning show of Null and Void? Yeah. All right. And I have my Dickie right next to me too. It's in a.
Are you touching it now?
I keep my Dickie close by.
Let's both touch our Dickies right now. There we go.
Okay, I'm going to take another drink.
Golly.
Ooh,
hey,
okay,
before
now,
we get too much further, let's say we set up the giveaway.
good idea. And then Ryan's going to do his stories. You're going to do your story. So we should do that. Yeah.
So I'm thinking hashtag Earth Day. Since it is
hashtag Earth Day. Put
Day,
that in
should
the
be
comment section, just as it is, all one word. And then the computer will pick the winner of the wine condom and the faucet attachment.
And once again, if you've won before, please,
yeah, if you won, please let somebody else do that. Hashtag Earth Day if you want to try to win. All right, put it in the queue right now, and then the computer will pick. All right. Ryan, are you back? Ready for the other stories?
I am. And Alan, if you want to, I've got a slide show there. So this is the picture. There was a Red Wing Zamboni driver who was fired for peeing in the drain hole between the Zambonis there. They said he had so he filed a lawsuit against the company saying that he had a medical condition. He didn't know when he could had to go to the bathroom. So he was doing that when he parked the Zamboni, and another male saw him doing it. But they noted that this was a closed off area and all the employees in there were males. So
and who does he work for?
Red Wings.
What's that?
Hockey.
Okay, where is that?
I don't know.
Okay, it's some minor league thing.
I don't know that. Sorry, I didn't.
I don't know.
I got all the other details that he had a medical condition. And,
I don't know. I was strapped to a man at 20,000 feet.
So I don't know what the Red Wings are, but
Detroit.
Yeah. So there's the picture.
Detroit?
They said Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah. So he peed in the drain hole is what the basically the gist of the headline of the story. Zamboni driver fired for peeing in the drain hole.
Okay, it's those Red Wings. I knew Detroit Red Wings, but I thought it might be some of these minor league teams have professional hockey names.
So it got some traction. I mean, I saw it pop up on a couple different news outlets.
So he claimed that he has a condition and he can't make it to the bathroom, so he peed in the drain hole between two. If you've ever peed in a drain hole between two Zambonis, I'll tell you. And
the bathroom
somebody saw him and blew the whistle, and now he's suing the company.
Correct. And he said the bathroom from where that Zamboni was parked was 70 yards.
And he was fired because of this?
Yes.
That's why he's
2 days.
Okay.
2 days after. Yeah, 2 days after. So, but I'm glad we, at least in the story, they showed the picture of where it was. I mean, they couldn't let it go. They had to put that in the story.
All right. As listener Scott says, shocks. Shock. Yeah. Okay, we're going to have strippers come on, and I'm going to do butt bongo in just a minute.
Well,
okay.
That's a good segue. So the next slide, Alan, this showed up in Wisconsin. For $20, you could get these vintage magazines. And they said, make sure you read them for the ad and the cartoons.
Okay, somebody online is selling Penthouse and Playboy vintage for $20.
Two of them. The one is from the Penthouse is from 79 and the Playboy is from 67. It's just two. This is Facebook Marketplace in Waukesha. You see that.
$20 if you want it. And it's $9 on top of that for shipping.
Right, if you wanted to ship it.
Walter says unstained. Mm-hmm.
So
now, if you could just remember where your friend's father kept that stash buried, isn't that?
Oh, that's where the treasure trove is. Yes.
So you got a little bit of the 60s and then almost the 80s. I mean, 79, almost 80. So
all right.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you buy these and you go pick them up somewhere and you're thinking as you're driving, what am I doing? What?
It would be at the police station, Gary. It would be at the police station. You do the exchange under the camera at the police station.
Right, exactly. I'm here to pick up a couple magazines that I bought online and I don't want to be mugged. Okay.
Are they really worth that much? You know, there's adult content on the interwebs for
I
free
know.
these days.
I can't believe
and
any
some
of
great articles
right.
and
I mean,
cartoons.
it's hard to believe any of those magazines have currency when the internet is huge with anything you want. Go ahead, type in anything, and anything is a porno site.
After the show.
Yes.
Do it after the show.
And we know Garry likes lottery. So here I don't have any pictures, but I just put some stats. So if you're in Michigan and you have a lottery ticket, it's going $1 million one's going to expire May 5th. And then last month in Maryland, $10 million prize was gun claimed.
Nobody claimed it. And what have I told you about your lottery tickets? How do you not know? How do you not find it or any of that? You put it in the same place. You check them within a couple days after the drawing. $10 million. Somebody's going to piss away or has $10 million gone. And $1 million in 2 weeks. I don't think they're going to show if they haven't shown already, right?
No.
Can you
The
believe
good
that?
news is that's so much more money for the schools because that's exactly what
That's
it's
where they
earmarked
go.
for.
That's right, damn it.
And there was a disclaimer at the bottom of the article that says, even if you didn't win the big prize, check your tickets because you could win lower prizes. I mean, they said there was all this money that goes unclaimed because people said, oh, I didn't win the $10 million, but didn't realize maybe they won 100,000.
Or $1 million. That's why I have a ritual I love rituals. Did I tell you I love rituals? I love rituals.
You did.
I go about 2 days after I've bought the tickets to buy other tickets and check them in the machine. I don't want to check online. I'm old school. I get the paper ticket. Yeah. Okay.
So I have one more. This lady was hassled, an hour going out to the eateries. This lady was hassled because of her attire for her when she was celebrating her birthday. There was a lady next to the table. I saw this on 3 or 4 sites that they said her big naturals were distracting. And that was the headline. I saw this on the news, and then this is from the New York Post too.
Who called them big naturals? The
lady next to her. She leaned over and said that to her. You're distracting me.
You have big naturals?
Yes, you're distracting me.
Distracting her?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how does that distract her? And you got to wonder if there's a sleeping giant when you hear that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So she, of course, posted on TikTok and then went, into,
It's none of your business, lady, next to her, whether this woman has big bosoms.
And to be perfectly honest, I mean, if you're wearing a top like that on your birthday, you want to be distracting.
Right.
It's your birthday, damn it.
We're back out. The pandemic's over, right? Let it go. But yeah, that was a story that popped up in 2 or 3 news outlets that said,
am I the only person that minds his own frickin' business? I mean, I don't understand why people have to get in other people's business. She's celebrating her birthday. She has big breasts. So what? Just shut up, pay your check, and get the hell out if you don't like it.
I mean, unless they're on your table, really, you got no place to stand here.
Dan, my wife is out of town. She is out of town. So
guys know when a wife is out of town because Dan said there's a theme to Ryan's report this week. Wife out of town?
Call it the way it is.
Yes,
but my question, which wasn't in the article, how close was that lady that said that? I mean, is it like where you're right on top of him, or was she clear across the room and was like yelling, there she is?
There's your wife, and she's out of town.
Yes.
That now triggers my PTSD about when I had tight pants in high school. I mean, who's noticing these things?
Well, in your case, it was the young teacher who was teaching you literature. But,
yes. Yes. And my father said, Valley of the Dolls required reading in this class. And all of a sudden, it's all chaos. I explained. I was wearing sharkskin pants. I put them in the washer. They shrunk. I thought sharks live in the water. They could never shrink. Yeah.
Did you ever get another pair?
Oh, I had a lot of sharkskin pants. I love the way the colors change. I love sharkskin.
Oh, golly.
Christmas is coming up.
Gary's the reason they're actually endangered. It's not because of people
there's some Christmas lawn puke.
If you don't mow your yard, it'll just kind of blend over, right?
That's right. If you do no mow May, that lawn puke will just blend in. You won't even see it.
So that's all I have in my arsenal this week. So
that's a good arsenal.
Yeah.
All right. And we're going to wrap things up with Leslie's stuff, and then we're going to give away the condom and the lighting fixture.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, production is on hold for a new Aziz Ansari film following a complaint against fellow actor Bill Murray. All we know right now is that Murray is accused of quote unquote inappropriate behavior and that an investigation is currently underway. That is just the latest blow from Mr. Ansari. Let's focus on him for a second.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be starring, writing, and making his directorial debut in this movie called Being Mortal, based on the book of the same name. If you'll recall, Ansari was briefly caught up in the hashtag #MeToo maelstrom, though most people now agree it was less a matter of abuse and more a matter of a date that really didn't go very well.
I don't know if you saw Bill Maher's comedy special on HBO last week, but he addresses this where Ansari was administering oral sex to this woman and she was receptive for that, but then didn't want anything else. And that's where it got a little weird.
He was also reportedly a bad kisser, and you don't want that out there. If you're
Okay. Wow. Yes.
A man from Illinois is recovering after accidentally inhaling a drill bit during what should have been a routine dental procedure. Tom Josie says he was unaware that the metal bit had gone down his throat, but lucky for him, the dentist was aware and helped him get immediate medical treatment. Josie was taken to a hospital where a CT scan showed that he had actually inhaled the bit, causing it to lodge in his lung. In another lucky turn of fate, doctors at the Aurora Medical Center in Kenosha were able to avoid surgery and use a new diagnostic tool to go down his trachea and into his lung to remove the bit without further injury. Mr. Josie now keeps the bit on a shelf at home as a special memento.
In a jar by the door. She keeps it in a jar by the door.
That's her
Okay.
smile. This is a drill bit.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I don't like to suck down anything that I haven't agreed to suck down. That's my policy.
That was Aziz Ansari's face.
But I don't bump.
But sorry.
And
The Federal Aviation Administration, hey, we're talking about skydiving. They just revoked the license of a pilot who they say deliberately crashed his plane into a mountainside just to get likes on social media. Last year, Trevor Jacob posted a video on YouTube purportedly showing himself putting on a parachute and bailing out of a small aircraft that he said was having engine problems. Well, the unmanned plane then went on to crash into Los Padres National Forest. The video immediately went viral, racking up nearly 2 million views. But now a subsequent investigation by the FAA finds that the whole thing was staged. And for that reason, Mr. Jacob will no longer be allowed to fly.
was Mr. Jacob strapped to a man like Ryan was strapped to a man?
No, but part of the FAA investigation found out that he already had his plane door open. He had cameras affixed to the outside of the plane. He also had a spare chute in his backpack. So
Okay. It's all
didn't pass
bullshit,
the-
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, let's just use one other aviation story. A California woman is under arrest for making an emergency exit from a plane in Niagara or at Niagara International Airport on Tuesday. Though the only emergency, it turns out, was her. 24-year-old Cynthia McKnight is charged with disorderly conduct, harassment, trespass, and criminal mischief for causing a disruption on the flight headed to Chicago. The pièce de résistance of her misdeeds was when she deployed the plane's emergency slide and tried to make a hasty getaway. Well, she was quickly apprehended as soon as she hit the tarmac. Her fellow passengers, though, were further inconvenienced because they had to be booked on alternate flights after that.
Yeah, I just read where the FAA is really going to crack down big time on these assholes. And a lot of them won't be able to fly again on any carrier. So something's got to be done. This is insane.
There are consequences, kids. Just
Yes.
sit in your seat, shut up. Oh, well, this week, too, I should have mentioned there's that whole Mike Tyson thing brewing.
Oh, yes. A number of listeners sent me that video where who would do this? This asshole is drunk, it looks like,
Right.
and hassling Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson.
He's in the row behind Mike. He's standing up. He's like over Mike. Mike's just like trying to keep his head down, and he's pestering him and pestering him and pestering him.
And finally, Tyson has had enough. And would you like to be on the receiving end of Tyson's fist? I wouldn't. And then this
He
mope,
clocked him
there's a
good.
video of this mope with his head all cut up. Good. You're a doofus asshole.
There you go.
Yeah, I love when Tyson just wailed on him. All right.
Usually, Mike, he has been on the wrong side of certain engagements with people, but that time, this dude was asking for
That's
it.
right. Okay, Larry posted after the show, it's time to wax the schnauzer and have a cannoli. Happy weekend to you. Thank you, Larry. And you're exactly right. That's what you should do. But before we do all that, and before I go out on the rock, take my shoes off and cry, we're going to give away the wine condom and that fixture for your faucet that lights up. And
There's the
we're
condom
ready
right
to
there.
hit that computer button, aren't we, Alan? On Earth Day?
Absolutely, Gary.
Here we go.
Let's go for the drawing button.
Drawing button. Brian.
Brian.
All
Brian's
right,
a
Brian.
regular.
All right. Congratulations, Brian. You'll be getting that in the mail. And Alan, tell him what he should do.
Let's have you email Gary at GarryMeierShow@GarryMeyer.com or text 773-888-2157 or send a private message on Facebook to Gary's account with your address somewhere that Leslie can mail stuff.
All right. And we'll do it again next weekend. But the show returns on Monday. Hope you can join us for that. And it is time to take the cannoli. It is coming down the aisle. Look at how beautiful that cannoli is. I bet you Anzari could put his tongue in that. Hey,
Poor
what do you got
Aziz,
about
man.
the schnauzer there?
In honor of Earth Day, take it outside, air that schnauzer. I mean, let it
Earth
enjoy nature in its most beautiful way.
Fetch on all fours, stream that schnauzer. That's it for the appetizers and nonsense. And have a great weekend. Talk to you on Monday. It is 3 in the green. The gear's down. The flaps are down. The voice of the globe, the GarrForce, has landed.
If you like that, I got other stuff I think you're going to like. This is the GarrForce